Robert Black. You've talked about when you were in the RPF and trying to balance your meager income, $11 per week, in order to supplement your diet against the provided meals. How is the food prepared in the Sea Org? There's obviously a difference between food prepared at the Celebrity Center, Flag, and Big Blue, for instance. Who decides budgets and menus and who actually prepares the food? Scientologists or contractors? Is food also made available in orgs? Okay, so in the Sea Organization you have a galley. On every Sea Org base where you have Sea Org members living, you have a galley system. Now, I never went to the bases in UK or Copenhagen or Australia, so I can't really speak to those. I went to the one at Flag in Clearwater, and I, of course, lived at Big Blue for many, many years. We had an extensive, very large galley set up, and we had about 5 people in there who were working their asses off all day long to make all the food, and they had a pretty good drill down as to how they went about doing it. And the budget that they received was a combined budget from the various organizations on the base who would pay into the management unit, the Continental Liaison Office, or the CLO, which is where I worked. And that organization, the CLO, is where the staff that manned up the galley came from. And they were responsible for feeding the whole base. The service organizations, which were the Advanced Organization of Los Angeles, the American St. Hill Organization, and now the Los Angeles Organization, since that's all Sea Org members now, those organizations paid their money and their crew showed up at the meal times and they ate their food and then they went back and serviced the public by, with training and auditing. We at the CLO were a management organization, so our job was to manage those organizations and handle all the logistics of the base, the estates of the base, right? All the painting of the buildings, the upkeep of the buildings, maintenance, that sort of stuff. That was all on CLO. Okay, so in the mess, you had a galley in charge. I don't remember all the post titles. There was a mess steward and the steward in charge and the cooks and the baker. I mean, there was a baker, there were a few cooks, there was a salad prep person, and there was a main course prep person, and there was a baker, and they had big ovens. I crawled around in them when we were cleaning them. We on the RPF, man, we cleaned that galley a lot. So I got pretty familiar with that whole thing. And then there was a whole dishwashing section with a dishwasher in charge who handled all the dishwashing. And usually we in the RPF, or more regularly, the Estates Project Force, the boot camp guys, would come in and do the dish cleaning. And it really just consisted of scraping the food off, throwing it into the dishwashing machine, and then there was a drying part, and then stacking them up and getting in. And there was a whole daily schedule and drill to all of this. And again, even that dishwashing machine, I crawled around inside of, scraped off, barnacles and mold and stuff. I mean, it was quite something. Not mold, but whatever. Oh, lime. Lime would accumulate in there. It wasn't mold. Anyway, so that was part of what I did down there. So that system, that thing is paid for by all the organizations. Now, depending on how much they get is how much they can spend for their menu planning. So often, we would have whatever we could afford to have, and they would want to do menu planning that would include steak and hamburgers and good lasagna and stuff like that, but they didn't get enough money from the organizations to do it. And so we would end up with beans and rice sometimes, not all the time, runny eggs for breakfast. It's like if they could have served us better food, they would have. The main steward of the galley wanted to feed the crew good food. It wasn't like they were all evil people going, let's destroy the dietary nutrition of the entire base. It's just they were stuck with not enough money. And I know that sounds crazy given that Scientology has billions in reserves, but again, none of that money goes down to the Sea Org members. They're given a substandard or bare sustenance sort of lifestyle. So the messing system was not really that great. It fluctuated. When there were good weeks where we had lots of money, then they could afford to get some of the higher quality food and they could afford to feed us better. And when there wasn't, it was beans and rice, or similar crappy ass food, which I would have to, use my $50 a week to supplement my diet by going to the grocery store on Sunday morning when we had some cleaning time and buying some snack food or some actual real food that I could use as a substitute for when we had crappy meals, or buying food in the canteen, which was a separate money-making operation for the Sea Org, where they would sell candy bars, food, Cokes, juices, vitamins, all kinds of stuff to the Sea Org. And so the Sea Org was paying the Sea Org and then making the money back through the canteen. That's where most of the staff members' pay went, I think, or certainly a good chunk of it. And that was more income for the CLO. So anyway, that's kind of how the system worked. They do not have that same system at the Class 5 city-level churches. They have little cafes in the new Ideal orgs, and they serve coffee and donuts and, little sandwiches or something. But that's a very, very tiny little operation compared to what goes on the Sea Org basis, where you have 5, 10, 15 people posted just to feed the crew. That's how that kind of breaks down. And that's how that whole system works.